pass around just a few things I printed from just online bank or just Googled it in regards to starting a business. We really didn't have anything that the bank wanted us to put out there to the market in regards to ways to what types of businesses, but I printed that out just to help you guys out a little bit with ways to choose what type of business you want. A lot of times we'll get customers that walk in, they have a check made payable to a business and they want to cash it. And like, well, you can't cash it. You can't cash business checks. So they have to open up a business account. And they don't know where to start. Well, what do I do to open a business account? So that kind of right here under choosing your business structure, it kind of helps you understand what's good for you. We don't like to, the banks don't like to give advice on taxes or the way to structure a business. And the reason why is because if something goes south, you're going to blame it on the bank. So we try to just say, here's some tools you can use. Here's the things we require to open up a business account. And if you have questions, we'll let you know if we can open it or if we can't open it. So as you look at some of the topics or just the type of business structures, you have sole proprietorship. That's usually the easiest business entity you could set up. You can use your EIN number, or you can use your social security number, or you can apply for an EIN number. Then you have the limited liability, corporations. The only thing I don't see on here, no offense, Roger, is nonprofits. But a lot of the other entities you have to apply for an EIN number with the IRS, which is pretty simple. You can go online and.
We do the same with the nonprofit. We just have to do a special tax return.
Right. So pretty much, in order to come and open an account with pretty much any bank, you have to be registered with the Colorado Secretary of State. So they're going to require that you either have your articles if you're an LLC, articles of organization, and if you're a corporation, they're going to require that you have your articles of incorporation. So as long as you have those two documents and you're in good standing with the Secretary of State, we can open an account. A lot of times if you don't get your tax identification number from the IRS, the banks usually have you they'll have you sign a disclosure, making sure you do understand that your tax ID is being tied to the business account and you're not going to hold the bank accountable for any lawsuits, any garnishments, any tax penalties or what have you. So we kind of put that out there to say, hey, typically you need an EIN number for tax purposes and for liability purposes. But if you choose not to, we're going to just make sure that, a lot of you understand that if there's any garnishments, there's any levies, there's any lawsuits, that this business could be attached if it's under your social security number. So usually you'll get people that'll get an EIN number because they want to protect their personal income, they want to protect their assets, and establish a banking account. Is there anything specific that kind of jumps out to you guys about a business account that you haven't been answered, that you haven't had the chance to ask the question and no one responded? Let's go with you.
Okay. Currently, I'm just a sole proprietorship, but I'm going into a partnership now. So is my status as banking change?
You're going into a partnership. Okay.
With my business checking accounts and stuff?
Usually they can't change. You could change the titling. And again, your partner's probably going to want to have, way you structure it, they're probably going to want to have it as a corporation or LLC. And we can restructure the legal vesting of your account without changing the account number.
Okay.
But what your business partner wants, if you have your sole proprietorship set up under your social, that means if there's any.
I got an EIN number.
Okay. And that's normal, but a lot of people set up the sole proprietorship under their social because you can file it one and the same.
Okay.
But a lot of times, under the, what's the name of your business? How is it structured?
Safe Pro Guard.
Safe ProGuard. So you're doing a fictitious name. It's like a DBA under your name. It depends on how you and your partner wants to structure it. But a lot of times when you have partners involved, they'll want it to be a LLC or a corporation just to make sure all the legal ramifications are covered, all the tax reporting is covered, and there's no issues. We're prohibited from giving tax advice. We usually ask you to reach out to a tax accountant or
I need to talk to a CPA probably.
a lot of times. That's probably best in regards to the structuring, what's best for your company.
All right.
So there is a IOTA account?
IOTA account?
IOTA
Uh-huh.
account, yes, okay, which is, right, we were, yeah, right, go ahead.
No, the IOTA accounts, out here in Colorado, they're COTAFs. So they're the same.
Okay.
They're attorney accounts, but we structure them as a COTAF account. So those are pretty much set up through, you have a COTAF account where you have the state that has an EIN number and tells all the attorneys. You register under our EIN number, and then a lot of attorneys will set up a separate account for our operating account. So a lot of, if you charge a heavy client, you know, 100 grand, and you charge a retainer, you'll put all that money into the COTAF account, and you bill the COTAF account and put that in your operating account. So that's usually how there's.
The COTAP is like, it's a business
Mhm.
account. What if there's fraud on the account and money's missing? Who's liable? I mean, as a for instance, let's say someone wrote a check on the account and then someone materially altered the check, you know, moved the decimal one space to the right or
Mhm.
something, and there was enough money, the check cleared,
Yeah.
money's out of the account.
So usually what banks do is we train a lot of our employees on the 5 points of negotiability. And what that is we make sure that there's a maker on there, make sure there's a date, we make sure there's a routing number, account number, there's a payee, it's endorsed, the numeric amount matches the legal amount, and you look for those discrepancies, and if there are, you want to check it. In the event that there's a discrepancy with, a lot of times you'll get someone that can alter a number, and the legal number is clearly saying the check is for $1,000 and they deposit as 10,000. The bank will take responsibility in that because we didn't dot our I's and cross our T's. So a lot of times when there's fraud, we're trying to protect your money as much as possible. We have signature cards that we use to try to make sure, you know, this signature doesn't match. Some things just get past us though, and we really rely on the business owner to, you know, monitor their account daily to just say, hey, this check just cleared my account, I didn't authorize that, how do we get the funds back? A lot of times we can try to return the checks.
There was that, way back in law school, there was a rule that, you know, you had to, you know, check your monthly statement, and if you advised the bank of the discrepancy in a month, the liability was on them. If you let it go more than a month, they were out of liability and it was on you. I think now, with online, you can virtually follow it daily.
So with,
Is the time window narrowed up from a month then?
so the bank's not responsible for any fraud. So any fraud that happens on your account that's not caused internally, we're not responsible for. With the consumer accounts, the consumer has 60 days to dispute a transaction. Business owners don't have that right. You have 24 hours.
So that's the big distinction. If it's a personal account, if I raise the flag,
Mhm.
60 days.
Yep. 60-day dispute. You can have up to 60 days to say, hey, I didn't notice this, but you know, there was an extra $80 out of my account or extra $500 out of my account, and we'll have you go through the process to dispute everything and figure out, you know, how you get your money back. If you go past 61 days, we're not entitled to, you're not entitled to dispute it. So usually on a business account, it's case by case. Say there's someone, if it's an altered check, the bank usually will, want to know where you wrote your checks. Did you file a police report? Did someone break into your office? There's a lot of circumstances that we look at to determine how do we get your money back. And what we try to do is usually that's why business checks can't be cash. So if it's a business making a check payable to another business, they're going to have to deposit it at the other bank. And sometimes if we notice it right away, we'll try to reach out to the bank that endorsed it to see if we can have that check not paid. And that bank will have the right to just say, hey, no, we're not going to pay this check. You guys should have caught it. And we'll make the decision on, are we going to, pay this item? Are we going to reimburse the customer or not? So
I'm thinking like the business checks, I mean, they're not written, of course, it's all typed up. And, with modern computers and software and printers, I mean, I can make a beautiful, very genuinely looking check that's, got an extra 1,000 on it or something.
And, there's things that we're trained to do. We look at, the range of checks. We look at the dollar amounts. So if there's anything on your account that just isn't consistent, we try to do our best to reach out to the business owner. So, I would encourage you guys, if you're not updating your information with the bank quarterly, make sure you do, because if we reach out to you and try to, do some due diligence to make sure the check was good, if we don't hear from you, a lot of times it just has to go through because we have a small window on when we can return checks, whether it be made payable to a person or payable to a business. And a lot of checks are handwritten still. You wouldn't imagine that, but yeah, a lot of people still like the old-fashioned way of writing checks. But we try to make sure that, we stay in front of our customers. So a lot of times you guys, whether it's a personal account or a business account, the bank's calling you just to see how things are going, and a lot of times you think it's a sales call. Well, they're calling me, I don't want to hear anything about a sale, I don't want to hear anything about this. But it may be just a conversation to say, we've been seeing a lot of losses happen with nonprofit COTAF accounts. And here's what we're offering to our customers to prevent this fraud from happening to them. So take your call, take the banker's call when they call you guys. Answer the phone and see what the purpose of the call is for. Any other questions about accounts? No?
How long does it really take a check to clear? You always hear the story, like, 5 business days or something.
Yeah.
Like, personally, I sold something about it, I get a check for it. And I hear stories that, well, really, the check can bounce after 2-3 weeks, too. So you're not safe in a week.
Well, that's where that whole dispute process comes back. A consumer writes a check to you, for $1,000. They get the goods from you, and you guarantee it's always going to work forever. And they try to work with you and say, hey, you said this will work forever. It's broken down. I want you to fix it, or I want my money back. No, I'm not giving you your money back. Then the consumer can then now go through the dispute process and just say, hey, there's a dispute right now. I didn't get what I paid for. And we can dispute that process for them to try to debit whoever's wrote the check, try to debit that money back out of your account and return it to the customer. So, usually the checks, depending on the Federal Reserve's, whichever routing number they're using, it could take anywhere from 2 days to 7 days. But again, there's that dispute process that you got to be careful with. But not everybody's, out to get you. A lot of people are trying to do the right thing. You just got to be careful with certain people that dispute things. So the banks kind of protect the employees to say, hey, have conversations with the customers. I know a lot of times, you may get a check you sell something on eBay, you get a check for $5,000, You go into the bank, you have $500 in your account, the employee's asking you questions. So where'd this check come from? Do you know these people? So they're trying to ask you questions to try to help protect you so the check doesn't bounce, because there's a difference between, how do I say this? So if you're talking, if this is someone you don't know, I'm gonna send them, I'm sending them the goods. I think this is a good check. I know this is a good check, what have you. I don't want you guys to put that check on hold. You deposit the money in your account and the check comes back. A lot of times you get business owners, even consumers, that say, well, why didn't the employee put the check on hold? You guys should have helped me. So you guys put a lot of pressure on the employee saying, well, you guys should have known, or you guys should ask questions, or, you had the big, lotto fraud that goes on. And a lot of times, you get a lot of elders get scammed. And, they look at it as fraud. It is fraud. But when you go into the bank and initiate a wire and send it somewhere, or you go into the bank and you take your money out of your account and you deposit at another bank, that's not fraud. There's no one actually, someone's, manipulating you and deceiving you, but we can't tell you can't take money out of your account. We can't tell you can't wire money out of your account. So that's a different process. The bank's not liable for any losses that happen around that avenue.
So if a business wrote your business, say a check for $30,000, and you want to believe that they're good for it, is there a way to verify that check is valid without?
You get a cashier's check.
Those are usually the good things. What we usually recommend our customers to ensure funds are good is to have that business wire the money in your account,
Yeah.
or certified funds.
Certified what?
Certified funds, so that could be a cashier's check.
Non-monetary instruments, money orders, cashier's checks.
Okay.
That's usually a better way of ensuring that the funds are good.
Yeah, large transactions.
Some businesses don't do that just because there's fees associated with that.
It's like $50 a wire, but if it's a large amount,
And what's nice too about wires is you do get them same day with no hold. So with the certified funds or the cashier's checks, we do still see fraud in those, unfortunately, and even though there are certified funds. But with the wires, it gives you it 100% available immediately, and that's kind of why it's a little bit more expensive as well, because there is no hold on the item.
But there is a fee, or is it?
There is a fee, yeah.
Okay.
So you pay the fee, but you're paying for the peace of mind.
Is it just a flat fee, or no matter the amount, or is it?
Flat fee.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the dollar amount.
You just give them your routing number, their full
Mhm.
routing numbers
And
for a
most
wire?
banks have two, so like they'll have a ABA routing number for like ACHs or direct deposits, and then they'll have a wire routing number for just
Okay,
wires.
so, okay.
You can always reach out to your bank and say, hey, what's your
wire
your routing?
That's just different from being a personal,
Yeah,
never had anybody wire money, but
and yeah,
No,
it's good to know that there's,
and we do have products where you can initiate them at your desk.
Yep.
So if you feel more comfortable, and they are at a discounted price too. So that's something that's also
Who
Nice.
pays those fees, the sender or the receiver?
Both.
both. There is a receiving fee as well.
yeah, I know.
So and the way it works is as you're initiating the wire, ours are about $35. So you initiate the wire, and then you receive it to the bank. You're wiring money to your partner at Wells Fargo. Their bank is going to charge you incoming wire, and the reason why is this: it is bank to bank, but the feds charges a fee for using their broadband to wire the money. So that's where those fees come from.
Dang feds. Their finger in everything.
Yeah.
Now, I have a concern. If someone wants to wire me money, especially from overseas, so they say, okay, I need to send, like routing number, the account number, your ABA,
Hmm.
I send them your bank's identification numbers plus my account, and I get the wire from them, but I'm kind of like a little bit worried that my account number is out in a foreign country
So that's a good question. That's a valid concern. And this is why we have these promotions for free checkings. A lot of times you'll have business owners that'll have 3 business accounts, and they'll have 1 business account where they only receive the incoming wires. And once you,
That's what I kind of do
Yep.
on my own, like
there you go.
That way if somebody tried to do something with that account, there's nothing but $20.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're covered from that standpoint.
It's
So,
very risky to
Yep.
keep
Yeah, that's
money
free.
in an account that's got wires that are smaller
Yep.
going in and out of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just that peace of mind. Because anytime you're giving out your account number, it's compromised, right? So now you've already compromised it. Yeah. So,
I put it on every invoice that I send to Italy,
Yep.
with the money.
absolutely. So that's the reason why you'll have
Well,
a
you know,
business.
You think about it, you write a check, and anyone can
Yeah, absolutely.
send it.
Yep. Yep. And that's what, even from the consumers, we always recommend you have a payroll account where your direct deposit goes in, and you have a bill account where your checks go out. So if your account where your checks are going out is ever compromised, you don't have to deal with the frustration of having to work with your employer to get another account set up, another direct deposit, then you gotta take a paper check. So we always recommend you have that bill account, it's an additional checking account. So when you're writing checks, or if your debit card gets compromised, life doesn't stop, you still have the bulk of your money in your other account. So it kind of works both ways with the business side and the consumer. The only challenge you face is, and that's why a lot of times when you're seeing those promotion of free checkings, that's when you want to jump on it. Because right now, you know, you open up a business account with Bank of the West, how much does it cost? Nothing. So you have that account set up, and you don't have to worry about the monthly service fees. But if we didn't have this campaign going on, there's certain behaviors you have to do in the business account to waive the monthly service fee. So that's why a lot of consumers or business owners
Yeah,
keep balance.
certain
Yeah,
balance,
yeah.
or you're
Yeah.
limited to certain transactions,
Yeah.
certain amount of deposits, things like that, yeah.
So if there's no more questions about accounts, I'll kind of go into some of the processes with lending, and kind of help you understand what the banks look at. And
Well, I guess, one more, just general recommendation. You hear the horror stories, someone gets an email or a phone call. Someone claims to be from their bank and they're asking for sign-in information. And it works sometimes, because they wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they clean out your account, so, you know, how do I know, like, if I get an email that says from Bank of the West or a call, how can I be assured it's not fraudulent?
Well, I don't have that email, but I know that's called phishing. And usually what we do is, I have actually never even had that kind of case happen with me.
yeah, so what that is we have all your information. The only thing we're gonna do is if we see something on your account, we'll call you and say, just so we can confirm this is Roger, we just want you to verify the last 4 of your social, or a lot of times
You're not gonna ask for ID.
we're not gonna ask you for that. And then we'll disclose to you, hey, someone, our back office is getting an alert that someone's trying to compromise your email account or your online banking credentials. We want you to go in and change everything, but we'll never call you and say, verify your username, verify your password.
I think that's the scheme they use.
That's exactly what it is. So a lot of times, I mean, the banks don't do that. I mean, you gotta always think, does it make sense? Why is this, you have all my information, you know my balances, why are you calling me to ask me this stuff? The only thing we're calling to do is if I call your number, I wanna verify that I'm discussing information with Roger. So I'm gonna say, hey, Roger, it's Jermaine from Bank of the West. Just to confirm this is you, I'm gonna just ask you a few security questions just to make sure we understand. So if you made a deposit for $50,000, I may say, so when was your last deposit? About a week ago. Can you tell me how much that was? $50,000. Can you tell me, do you remember the roundabouts where you opened your account? Oh yeah, I opened it downtown. So things that we don't think someone would know off the top of your head. If someone's compromised your social security card, of course they're gonna know your last 4 of your social, but they don't know all your activity on your account unless they've they know, you know what I mean? They really got to be good to know all that stuff. So we kind of ask security questions. So my best advice is, if someone's calling you and asking you for credentials or for information,
If it seems fishy, it's fishy.
probably fishy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense? So before I go into the lending, I'm gonna just let Justina talk a little bit about the business accounts, that the campaign we have going on right now. It's a special offer. And I'll just let Justina talk to you guys a little bit about that, and then I'll go into lending. We do have, sometimes we do have,
Consumer
Consumer
campaigns.
campaigns.
And, we are also having a well, in this campaign, we are having a consumer offer. If you do keep around 50,000 on deposit with us, we will credit you $300. If you do have a business account and not a personal with us, and all you have to do for that is just keep the 50,000 balance requirement for 2 months, and you will get the $300 credit. And so for our business campaigns, we have 2 different types of checkings. We have a choice checking and then a classic checking. The classic business checking is going to be the free checking. So there's no monthly service charge or no minimum balance requirement. So if you want to keep 25 cents in there for 2 months, 3 months, it's always going to be free. You'll never see any kinds of fees on there. So that's good when it comes in with a wire account, or if you need an operating account or a tax expense account. And then with our choice, those are a little bit higher balances for our businesses. And with that, it is free for the first 12 months. So for the first year, if you want to try it out and see how it is. And you also get extra benefits with that. You get unlimited transactions. So you can withdraw, deposit as much as you need. And then you get $100 off of your check orders. Usually we do charge our customers for checks. And we also have just kind of, when your business gets started or so, we're having cash management, and we have the ACH Positive Pay, which helps with fraud. We also have what we call our Elavon. It's merchant services. So if you, in the future, want to take credit, debit cards as a payment, we help you and get you set up with all the
Terminals and
yeah, and it's
all
all
that good stuff.
discount as well. And then, like I said, with the wires, we have that. We could set that up with you to go. And we also have an EDS scanner. So if you have a lot of checks for your business, it also helps with fraud. We have some customers who maybe want to have an assistant run their checks to the bank every day instead of them. We have it where you can have a scanner in your office and deposit checks as well in your office.
Yep.
And that actually is going to be, that's usually around $700.
So I could deposit checks through the internet that way?
Through your office.
Through your- yeah,
Mhm, Yep. And we are having a special on that right now. There is going to be free EDS. You do have to have a contract though, and there are some requirements that you do have to keep to get the free EDS scanner. But the promotions we have right now, usually our classic business checking is the go-getter. A lot of people use it for tax expense accounts or operating accounts or wire accounts. So that's the campaign, and it goes all the way until June 10th. So you have about 6 weeks to think about it if you want to do it any further. We'd be happy to help you, take good care of you.
Yeah, thanks, Justina. So that's another way of, if you don't bank with us, but you have your business accounts with another bank, maybe using Bank of the West for your incoming wire bank. So if you don't want to keep minimum balances at other banks, open up an account, minimum opening deposit's $100. You have your wires come in there, you're able to write checks off that once the funds become available, deposit in your account, and if someone wants to try to hack into that account overseas, they're not going to get anything because there's no money in there. So kind of gives you that peace of mind, and it's, again, free. It's really, the regulators are big on, you can't say free unless it's free. So there is a $100 opening deposit, and the promotion only lasts till June. After that, our regular fees and all that other good stuff comes back into play. Okay. Any other questions about the campaign we have going on? No? Cool. So just a little bit about business underwriting. So a lot of customers want to, or business owners want to borrow money, right? They want to say, hey, I want to expand, or I want to have more working capital to pay my employees, or to do marketing, or have strategic planning, or hire a talented person to run my day-to-day operations so I can go out and get the business. So at Bank of the West, we require 3 years of in business. We want you to be in business for 3 years before we lend money against your business. And we have anything from a line of credit. Line of credits is ideal for short-term working capital. So if you're going to use it from, and it's just like a line, it wants you to go up and down. It wants you to use it when you need it and then pay it off when you don't need it, and just use it as you need it. So it's for short term. So if you're looking to borrow money for 6 months to 18 months and then pay it off, that's what we're wanting you to utilize a line of credit for. But a lot of times there may be more long-term payments that you need, and we'll talk about a loan. So we'll say, well, if you're needing, something for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, we may have a different product that's best for you. So it's always good to come in and talk to us a little bit about what you're looking to do, when you're looking to pay it back, so we can make sure we get you in the right product. We usually ask for personal guarantors, and what that is you pretty much endorsing your business. A lot of business owners, you'll find it interesting, but they do not want to personally endorse their business. And the reason why is they know if the business gets sued or the business does bad, that we can come after them we can come after your personal assets, we can come after you personally, and we're going to go after the business as well. So a lot of people don't want to personally endorse their business. Well, the bank looks at it as, if you don't want to personally endorse your business, why do we want to? Why should we do it? We're taking the risk. If you don't believe in it, why should we believe in it? So a lot of times the only way you get around that is very rare, but it may involve, if you're doing a building, if we're doing some building lending. So if we're putting a lien on the building, or we're securing a loan with equipment, certain things that we can do to recoup our funds. That's a lot of times where you get the personal guarantor in there out of it.
So that's the collateral, not your personal guarantee.
If a lot of times that's the way you don't have a personal guarantee, is if there's collateral and there's suffice to say.
Right, I'm buying a new specialty machine
Yep.
for the business, so I can just borrow against the machine. So,
Yeah, so that's the equipment lending.
but if
So.
I'm borrowing against, like operating expenses, or, well, I guess that would be a line of credit, like for employee wages.
It depends. I mean, it's gonna be case by case.
Fees or something.
Yeah, we usually want to look at the financials to see how good the business is doing. And if we just don't feel like it's strong enough, we'll look at the owners, anyone that has more than 25% ownership in the company. We'll look at your personal returns, your personal financial statement, to kind of say, well, we can't lend against the business, but if you guys personally endorse it, we'll lend against it, because we know you guys have a good pattern of paying your bills and not bailing out on people. So we'll lend the money out to you guys if you personally endorse it. But it doesn't affect your credit personally. So if you're applying for a home loan, or you're applying for an automobile, the credit bureaus don't see that as your personal debt. So they don't see that, as a business owner, you have this outstanding debt on your business, and this is going to affect your monthly payments to own a home or a car. It's
So
not
you're not
tied.
really like a third-party cosigner.
You're a personal guarantor, but you're the only time we're going to exercise that personal
Right, if they're
relationship is if you default. So,
How big does my business have to get before I can quit signing personally?
it's case by case. A lot of times you don't have to have a huge business. It all just depends on the industry that you're in. the personal tax returns, we usually look at 3 years tax returns, we look at the balance statements, we look at the.
business, like at least 5 years of profits or more.
There's no written rule on when you don't have a personal guarantor and when you do. There's just no written rule. Like I said, you can have a great business, but right all of a sudden, economists are saying this industry is headed downward. So they might, tell the banks, hey, this isn't a good industry to lend against because there's getting ready to be some problems. It can be whatever, so it's all case by case. There's no written rule on when you need a personal guarantor and when you don't. Here's one of the biggest things that usually becomes frustrating to a business owner. A lot of people hate paying taxes, right? So they'll say, well, we're gonna use all these write-offs and we're gonna make it to where we owe zero. We're gonna not owe Uncle Sam anything. So what the banks look at is we don't look at how much money you brought in. We look at how much money you paid taxes on. So if you made, let's say, $200,000 and you only paid taxes on $20,000, we look at it as your business made $20,000 this year.
Because I had all those expenses.
Because you had all those write-offs.
Right.
So sometimes that's when a personal guarantor come in.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, the profitability or expenses. Because obviously, well, you can see what happens, like, someone's doing that to minimize their taxes, but then it minimizes their net income, which minimizes their borrowing.
Absolutely. So we look at your ability to repay the bank back. So there's a lot of underwriting guidelines that we have to adhere to.
You guys do SBA loan?
We do.
Does the profile change on that then for the personal guarantee?
The SBA lending it's a little bit more cumbersome because the feds, they make you do criminal background checks. They may make you put liens against your property. So it's it's more expensive. There are some upsides to that because a lot of times they'll, when you're doing a bank loan, you have to put 25% down, where SBA doesn't require that much down. So you don't have to come out of pocket as much as you would with a conventional loan. But we get a lot of customers that go SBA, and it's just to each his own. We present
The
it.
SBA is like, they're guaranteeing you against part of the loss if there was default.
Yeah. So a lot of times, once you get approved through that, you're good to go with the banks. Because like I said, it's a background check, a criminal background check. We don't do criminal background checks on personal accounts, personal loans, business loans, but the SBA loans are government loans. So if there's a DUI, they may decline you. If there's domestic violence, they may decline you. That's their guidelines, that's their rules. They usually and it takes a little bit longer. So a line of credit or a business loan with us, we can have that done anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 weeks, depending on all the documentation that needs to be sorted out. Where a SBA deal can take months, because a lot of times they'll wait for the background check, and background checks usually take time. Cool. Is there any more questions you guys have for us this evening? No? We have our information on the document. So right on our agenda, we have Justina and Jermaine. So if you guys think of something, feel free to email me. Feel free to call us up. Whatever works best for you, we can answer your questions. And if we can't answer them, we can get you to the people that can answer them. Roger, you got any other questions for us?
No,
You sure? Don't let us off that easy, Roger. Well, thanks for having us out.
Thanks for having us.
And if there's any time you want us to come out in the future, Roger, don't tell them it's banking. Just say we have 2 special guests that'll be joining us.
They'll talk money.
Yes, surprise guest.
I would have never known about the wiring and separate bank accounts it's so very valuable.
Yeah, it's very, I would always recommend staying in touch with your banker, because a lot of times, you know,
When you have incoming and outgoing, there's a way to secure it.
Well, when it's incoming, it's back, if you have to give out your account.
Yeah.
If you're sending out, then you have their account info, right, so you're probably okay.
well, a lot of times they're probably doing the things you should be doing too. They're giving you an account number that they're only accepting wires in, so. They're, on the other end, they don't know you as well. So they're trying to make sure, both parties are trying to make sure they're protecting their assets. So when you're getting all their information, they're giving you an account that just, they're not giving you that account where they have payroll coming out of, vendors coming out of. They're
Right.
giving you an account where there's wires that are just going into that account.
So thank you.
So thank you guys for having us. And again, if
Thank you.
there's anything that pops up, let us know.
All right, thanks.
Gonna send me a copy of that?
Yeah.